Welcome to the Near Memo, a weekly conversation about search, social, and commerce. What happened, why it matters, and the implications for local. Let's talk about what all this means sort of for the state of the internet. Where are we? Because, Tim Berners-Lee wrote a post yesterday, which I haven't read. I'll say that up front. The so-called inventor of the internet. The internet is 35 years old now, technically. I guess marked by the first email or something. I don't remember what the jumping off point was, but the kind of secondary coverage of it is the internet is broken, right? This is sort of the headline. That was the New York Times headline. The internet is broken, and they're speculating on what would it take to fix it. There's a lot of discussion over the last 2 years about search quality and decline. Google is very defensive about that. In their trial, they said, no, search quality is getting better and better, and we have all these metrics internally to demonstrate that. But there is a growing perception among SEOs and certainly among journalists that search quality and Google in general is not what it once was. What react to that? What's your sense of that as both a longtime SEO and an insider from this quality rater's perspective?
Yeah, that I can't disagree with any of that. I think the internet is alive and vibrant. I think when we say the internet is broken, I don't know. I don't know what other people think, but I think we're talking about the gateways to the internet. The TikToks, Instagrams, Facebook, Google. These gateways, all ruled by algorithms, all send us to a particular experience and a particular product. But I think creators are doing better than they ever have been. The internet is evolving. I think the real risk right now is because Google has productized the experience, that product is more easily replicable by AI. They've created something that can be replaced by a different experience in a few years, and we're going to see a big shift there. And I don't know what's going to happen, but it's being reshaped really fast. So I'm optimistic, and also I don't think this old model. We have a lot of experience in SEO in this collective group. I think things are going to be very different in 5 years.
Sorry. Okay, thanks for joining us. No,
mic drop.
I think that Google has reached this place in its maturity and development as a public company where it's really pretty exclusively focused on revenue, and providing search results and providing search quality is really a means to that end, right? They're trying to protect revenue, they're trying to grow revenue to satisfy investors, and that to some degree has corrupted the experience or entirely corrupted the experience. And I think a lot of people are reacting to too many ads, kind of a sort of cynical presentation of results in certain kinds of cases. And I have talked about on this podcast, my own personal search behavior has migrated from Google exclusively to Google and a bunch of AI tools now. And so I don't know to what extent other people are doing that, but you're trying to advise people on how to recover, insights into what Google wants to see, how to recover from the HCU. Everybody's sort of scrambling to please Google. It's just it's kind of a mess at this point. I mean, what do you advise? I guess I'm saying 20 different things and there's no real question in there, but it's just, where do we go from here?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm not sure anybody knows the answer. I know I want to comment on my own search experience because I'm still optimistic about search at least for a while. My use of AI has certainly increased, but I think what we're seeing with AI right now is kind of like what we saw when mobile phones came out. People thought that everybody's going to shift their behavior from desktop to mobile, and what happened was it was not subtractive, it was additive. People were still searching on desktop, and then they just did 2 more hours of searching on mobile. And I think that's what's happening with AI right now. We're not, at least the numbers coming out of Google and the revenue and everything, people are not shifting over to AI. It's just more searches. I know I'm doing just more research online and things like that. I think we may see that for a little while. But yeah, I think I would still encourage people to create, to publish, but I think the model that we've had over the last few years, where you do your research on Ahrefs or Moz or SEMrush, you find some keywords that people are searching for, then you use another tool to optimize your content, and it looks like all the other content on the web. I think that sort of model has an expiration date on it, that it can't last forever, because if you, that is the process that can be easily replicated by AI. So we need more inventors online, and maybe that's how the internet is fixed. We need more people creating original content with original perspectives, and maybe that's what Google is. Maybe there's some people there that are actually way ahead of the game trying to get us to produce this original content. I don't know, but I'm optimistic in that regard.
We did point out, though, that, and I think this complements Greg's point about degradation due to money, which is that the aggregation of so many eyeballs and the need for them to have an editorial point of view tends towards gross mediocrity, sort of complements the financial incentives as part of this degradation, so that these unique voices are maybe lost forever through Google at some level, because they're under so much political pressure not to appear political, even though they are political. How do you solve that problem of controlling information in every society on earth and not be perceived as political? How do you do that? It's a really stickler of a problem, and they've done it, I think, with not just financial benefit to themselves, but with a trend towards mediocrity, as we've expressed earlier.
Just anodyne, sent right down the middle kind of stuff.
Yeah. Google doesn't want to. It goes back to risk and trust. Google, any result that is potentially risky, Google doesn't want to show.
And you see this even in AI a lot. I mean, there's so many things that Bard won't answer for me that ChatGPT will just give it a flyer, even if it's risky. And
but some of that is the chat AI bucket of search engines. They don't have any downside to hallucination, right? Like we all sort of expect them to hallucinate a little bit. Google has the burden of this 20 years of quote unquote trust built up with its users, that what it says is true. And we've seen this in local for years, where if a GBP profile is wrong, it's the brand that gets blamed, not Google, right? The brand screwed up with its address. It couldn't have been a bug in Google. And so I think Google has a lot of that at risk, which is, to me, explains their more sort of conservative behavior, not conservative liberal politically, but just like risk averse behavior at what sites they want to show.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, I wish I had a bigger point there. I agree with everything you said, David.
Well, so how would you advise SEOs, right? I mean, there is this methodology that you talked about, keyword research. I mean, one of the things that we did in a particular research project for a healthcare client is we told them, don't try and compete in these broad, big terms, diabetes, heart disease, whatever. They were creating a lot of content because you're never going to win.
Informational queries. Yeah,
informational queries. You're never going to win against the Mayo Clinic or WebMD or these guys. So you have to go into some, long tail stuff or some niche stuff. So these realities of SEO really create these powerful incentives and disincentives to behave in certain ways, which Google seems to complain about, right? Don't write content for search engines, write content for humans. But then if you write content for humans and you're not doing it in such a way that takes account of the algorithm, you're not going to succeed.
Yeah. I think the people in this group may have a little bit of bias because we're looking at these things that are changing. But I think for the average publisher, writing for search engines works still incredibly well and is going to work incredibly well, for the next 2 or 3 years. But after that, the horizon, gets more unclear. So I guess my advice that I would continue, I think publishers can still make investments using that old model successfully, at least for a while now. And if content needs refreshed every 2 or 3 years, I think we still have a full cycle of content that we can take advantage of. So most publishers, I don't think, need to change much at this point. But start thinking ahead. I don't know what that looks like. I wish I had a crystal ball. But I think for 99% of people can continue, the traditional SEO model that we've seen work, and keep investing in those channels, at least for a while, but start to think about branching out.
Okay. Any last
I think
questions?
that's a great way to close. No,
yes,
I
exactly.
I will echo your agreement on my point and say I totally agree. We got data this week from our mutual friend Rand Fishkin and Datos about Google still sending, whatever it was, 20 times more traffic than any other site on the web. And so until that graph starts shrinking down to a much, much smaller number, it's still worth the investment in making your content visible in Google. So
you have to.
Yeah. I tell people, try to think about the things that can't be replicated by AI, such as, unique video content, unique graphics research, maybe shift a little bit towards the original research and expertise if you're not doing that already, but otherwise keep doing what you're doing for now.
All right. Well, on that note, Cyrus Shepard, thank you very much for this really great discussion. And this will be out shortly, and we'll include all the relevant research and links to the things that you mentioned in the show notes. And we hope to have you back on at some future point to do a follow-up conversation.
Great SEO conversation. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for joining David, Mike, and Greg. To stay on top of the latest developments in local, subscribe to our newsletter at nearmedia.co. We'll see you next week.